welcome back to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm so excited you guys are joining us today. This is our last, if you've been watching us all afternoon, this is our last interview of this evening, so I'm so excited. We have the amazing Miss Tong with us. There's going to be incredible conversations. Just before we start, if you're new to the podcast, remember, subscribe. You don't want to miss a single episode. We have amazing authors joining us with incredible books. So we're here every single time. We'll be back next week also with amazing authors. So you do not want to miss a single episode. So make sure to follow us along. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. So if you have questions, make sure to put them in. I'll be watching to see where you guys have any questions up. But because you guys are here to see our incredible author, let me bring her on. Hello, Madame. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you, DC?
I am wonderful and thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the book. I am going to turn it over to you to do your reading and then we'll start chatting. So thank you.
For sure. My book, the title is The House Filler. So this is my debut novel, but it has won 4 international awards and have been a finalist 6 times. So I will start with chapter 1. I met the man I grew to love and the man I came to hate on the same day. I had waited for that day for 10 long years and I lost hope of ever getting married. When most girls are married off at age 16, a 26 years old unmarried woman is considered an old maid. A fresh lad was out of my reach. The villagers believed my best chance was to marry a widower and become a tianfang, a house filler. Then, out of nowhere, father received a marriage proposal through the shop owner in Kaifeng, who acted as a middleman for my opera costume making business. However, the widower was 20 years older than me. Too old for you. I turned him down, father told me that night. Within days, father received a second marriage proposal. This man, also a widower, was only 10 years older than me. Father met him in a middleman's shop in Kaifeng. When father came home, he announced, Jinfeng, it's decided. At least he's mature, not bad looking, and has his own business. I can't let this one pass. Did he ask? No, he didn't ask about your feet. Father waved his tobacco pipe dismissively. On the day before my wedding, father sat in our courtyard after supper. Outside, the sun turned from bright white to golden, then to the color of fire persimmon. The typical heat wave in summer had subsided to a comfort warm breeze. While he was cooling off with a big plantain fan, I was in the kitchen boiling water for a bath. Through dry corn stalks and twigs into the belly of the stove, I pushed and pulled the handle of the wind chamber. Sweat trickled down my forehead to my cheeks and chin, then dropped onto the ground, evaporating within seconds, leaving no trace behind. Since I was motherless, the Hu clan had sent a woman to our house and told me what would happen on my wedding night. You've seen animal mate? It's just like that, she said. Like animals? My face burned like a hot iron. I lowered my head. Take a bath today, for you may not have the time tomorrow. Make sure to wash your feet well. And remember, you must always obey your husband. With those words, the woman left. Why especially feet? Was he implying my feet was smelly? I was a bit offended. Even with the very little water supply, I made sure to wash my feet every day. Besides, the foot bath water was always used to water the flowers in the yard, so nothing was wasted. Women's bound feet were private in those days. The only people who had seen and touched mine were my father and the two witches who bound them. Since I was too young, he took on a daily routine of unwrapping, washing, and rewrapping my feet. It was not a man's job. With his big hands, he did it clumsily at first, then gradually got better. When I was 7, I learned to do it myself. I'll stop here. Maybe I should continue. Okay.
I'm so excited. Hello, that was awesome.
Hi. Hi.
How are you? Let's talk about this book, and I want to know more about it. What is this story about, and where did it come from? Tell us.
It is based on my grandmother's life, her life story. So she was my mother's mother, and I read the first chapter because it explains the title of the book, and it started to talk about the foot bending in Chinese tradition from many years ago.
So it's based on her story, which is amazing. How much research did you do to do it, or did you have first accounts of her story? How did that work?
Um, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that the time span of this book covers between 1920 and 1966.
Okay.
And yeah, when I was growing up, my mother has been telling me her side of family story like for many years. So I was familiar with those stories. When I was
Okay.
writing this book, I did my own research. I did the characters consolidation. I ordered the copies of photocopies of the newspaper published in the 1930s and 40s in her hometown. And I have read books, not only the books written today about that time, but also the books published at that time. And interviewed my other family members, relatives, went to her hometown in 2015. So there's a large amount of research to make the story authentic and have enough details.
I do have a question about the concept of wrapping of the feet. Why
Yeah.
is that important? Because you're making it's such a huge piece, and I'm like, what am I missing? What is it all about?
In China, for about 1,000 years, Chinese women, because it was a time that a woman's value is not measured by her looks, but by the size of her feet. Because
Okay.
about 1,000 years ago, there's an emperor in Song Dynasty. She he loved tiny feet women, so he had this favorite concubine who has had tiny feet. So then this tradition started in the court. You know, all these women in the court, they start to bend their feet. And then it's gradually spread to ordinary people. Because in order for their daughters to marry well, the parents would bend their feet at a very young age. Usually start with at the age 4 or 5. So Golden Phoenix being a motherless child, she missed the ideal foot bending age, and the ideal size is called is referred as golden water lily feet. It's a three Chinese twin, so it's about 4 inches long.
Ooh.
And her feet was 1 inch too long, so she ended up with silver water lily feet. And also because she was trained as a seamstress, so her father kept her at home for too long. That's why she didn't get married until 26, and then she had no other choices but to marry a widower. That's
You
how all this started.
you mentioned that, and that's such a huge piece of the story is that she was considered an old maid, like at
Yeah,
26. So
yeah.
nowadays, like if we're thinking about like how much our cultures have changed, is that still something that people have to get married young in China? I'm hoping it's not, because 26 is not
Um,
old.
no, no. Nowadays it's not. Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
So the foot bending tradition was like banished actually as early as 1912.
Okay.
It's just an announcement made by the Republic of China's government, but people continued that tradition until much later, especially for smaller place like villages, remote areas. So the last case of food banding happened in China actually happened in the 1950s because they were in a village, remote
Mm-hmm.
village. They didn't know what's going on outside. Yeah, and yeah,
It takes a while for information to travel, let's be honest. In a country as big as China, you're looking back 100 years. Information is going to take a while to spread. It probably took a while for that tradition to spread. It's going to take a while for the tradition to go away. But
yeah.
so it's amazing that you're capturing this so vivid in this book. So your story of your grandmother at 26 getting married, she doesn't have a mother. So she has a total stranger telling her about these, like what are you supposed to do as a woman? How
Yeah.
did you feel bringing this story to life and looking at it as her granddaughter and putting it on paper?
Uh, I just felt her story is deserved to be told and shared, because well, this is a part of our history, the Chinese history, our heritage, and women were born at that time. They started with the disadvantage of um, physical. How do I put it? Um, Physical disadvantage because with band feet you cannot run, you cannot climb trees, you cannot climb ladders. And later, when Japanese invaded the China, like in interior of China, they had to escape from the bombing, like from Japanese bombing, and that become like with bound feet, it's became very difficult for women. So they were born at a huge disadvantage. And also, as a girl, she was denied education by her father because lots of people believe girls, at the time, they don't believe girls need education. So she grew up illiterate. And then she had to fight her life through the poverty, the wars, the regime change, political turmoil. It was a very hard life, and but she didn't just stay there suffered. She did, and later she decided to fight back, and she made sure her children get education.
That's a
I think,
huge Yeah, that's
yeah.
a huge
Sorry.
empowering story. Like, because one of the things you're looking at it, it is very easy to get stuck in that world, and it's very easy to say, I had, become a victim and not move out. So for her to say, I'm done and I'm fighting back, and my kids are going to have better is incredible. So I agree. This story needs to
Thank
be
you.
told. So you're expanding almost 40 years. What is the book going to tell us? Tell us what can our readers expect from this book?
Well, that's a good question. I think should I read a jacket? Maybe I shouldn't. I think I believe it will, as you said, empower people and inspire people because she is resilient, even with all this life, those challenges. We're talking about life and death, not just a hard life, but one wrong move, if you make a wrong choice, or sometimes it's not up to you at all. Your life is on the line. So either you survive or you die. So I think this book tells people, first of all, um, with the historical, how do I put it, um, drop back, right? With all what happened during that time, you still have a choice, and you can choose to, as you said, to be a victim, and also you can choose to um, do something like betray your family or your country because in her family there's one person, this guy is her husband, this um, illegitimate, illegitimate son who later becomes a trader and a worker working for Japanese, working for enemies. So that's a
That's
choice this person made, and that's caused a huge pain and suffering for her family. But her she has like five children with an adopted son, so six children, and twins. The twins joined the Red Army, and because she couldn't feed them anymore.
Mhm.
And then her eldest son joined the national army because Japanese came. Her two daughters became like lost. Well, I wouldn't say lost. Was missing at the beginning of the Japanese invasion, but actually they were not missing. They were rescued by the nationalist government as a member of the performance group. So so there's all kinds of conflicts. And later she joined the underworld resistance movement. That's how she fought back because she was suffered gravely in the hands of both the traitor and the traitor was her stepson and the Japanese soldiers. Also after she was raped, she decided to fight back. So
This is such a powerful story. Like, I have goosebumps because I'm going, a lot of the times we take for granted the struggles of women outside of the United States, let's be honest, and outside of North America. The crimes
yeah,
against women are huge all over the world, and they're still going on today. So a
yeah.
story that can show you that there is hope, that there is, persistence and resistance, and that she can do something. It's mind blowing because you're going, that's 100 years ago that she was still fighting. Like, we're still fighting today. So yes, you are so
We're still
right.
fighting today. That's my point, right? We know
Yes.
in the lost parts of the world, girls don't have education,
Mm-hmm.
and there's girls get married at age 9, like a child bride. That's like the female's genital was removed at the age of 4 or 5. This is like crime against the women. I think they're crimes, and so the history is not that far from us. And if we're not careful, we lose our freedom. We could lose it at any time. It's not, we don't take anything for granted. I don't. I want to tell readers, freedom is never free,
Thank
and
you.
you have to be vigilant to to guard your freedom.
I say that all the time, and I think one of the things we take a lot of them for granted is crimes against women across the world continue to increase. So this story is so relevant today because it comes with hope.
especially
Yes.
especially during the wars, women suffer way 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 more. Like everyone suffers, but women because of a biological makeup,
Mm-hmm.
women suffer more. It's physically, emotionally, mentally, and women need to help each other. And I don't know. Well, I hope my book provides some inspiration.
It does because you're looking at a story that happens. You're looking at a woman who went through these things and was able to still be there for her family because you're here. Like, you
Yeah,
are that
that's right.
full testament that her story needs to be told because you're doing amazing things. So I'm just like, Miss Tong, thank you for this story because this is what we need
Thank
right
you.
now. So you
Thank
are
you.
also a poet. So I needed to
Yeah.
ask, can you tell us about that side? How different was it to be writing poems compared to be writing a novel?
Well, I wrote my poems mostly in Chinese
Okay.
because I started that in college. So I wrote a lot of poems when I was a college student. Then it's gradually like I still write poems after graduation, after came to Canada, but not as many as before until started 2018. I wrote a whole bunch of poems again, but I just felt English writing poems in English is very hard for me. It's much harder. English is my second language. So I did it. I make it happen by writing a fiction in a second language. But I think poems is very hard, and even when you translate, you lose so much, right? Like I think the
Yes.
translated poems is like, yeah. I just felt lots of these translations. It's end up you translate a beautiful woman into a skeleton, right? The
Okay.
basics there, but you lose so much beauty, right?
That's actually a
So
really good visual. I'm like, huh, I can see that. That totally makes sense. So,
yeah,
yes.
so I haven't made that attempt to translate my poems, but yeah, they're pretty much in Chinese.
I would say poems to start in English and don't try to translate them because you will it doesn't go as well. So I completely agree. There's something about the languages that just tends to lose that flavor. So I
Yeah.
completely appreciate it. This is your debut novel. Are you planning to work on something else? What else is in the mix for you?
Actually, I wrote three books already, like included this one. So
Okay, tell us.
yeah, uh, yeah, this like because first I wrote a big long novel with 240,000 words, and I couldn't find a publisher. And then I learned from my mentor. She said, no, 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 your book is too long for fiction, for literary fiction or historical fiction. Like no publisher will publish a book that big. So then I had to divide it into three books. That's how the three books were written or finished at the same time. I have just finished revising my second book, and the second book is my mother's story, like my parents' story, but mainly my mother's story. And currently, I'm looking for an agent because my first book is published just by a small publisher. I never had an agent. My third book is also finished, but I need revised. So, and I'm also just started to translate the first book into Chinese.
You are busy. Let's be honest. Like you have a lot of stuff going on because
And
promoting a book's hard work. Let's be honest. So you are
yeah,
busy.
I also have a day job with this. So,
Okay, so on top of everything else, you're still working, which thank you.
I'm
I
still
appreciate it. So yes. So when you're looking for an agent, you're looking to start selling and publishing your second book as well as your third. What is the third book about? You didn't tell us.
Oh, third book is about a story. It's my story, my own story. So it's based
Okay.
on my own experience before I came to Canada. So that one covered from the time from 1962 to 1988,
Nice.
and yeah, and after these three books published, my next trilogy will be based in Canada. So that will be an immigrant story, and the title of the trilogy is Oh Canada. Because this trilogy is like a China trilogy. Next is all Canada trilogy.
I
Yeah,
love it. That is awesome. So you're writing almost is historical fiction as well as literary fiction.
yeah.
How, and you're very passionate about it, which I really appreciate it. Have you considered expanding to other genres?
I actually once I started to write a sci-fi, but my mind worked too fast. I suffer repetitive injuries, repetitive strain injuries on my both arms. And when I tried, because my hands were not fast enough for my mind. So after a week of intensive writing, my hands were gone. I totally couldn't continue.
Okay.
And now I don't know where I put that 7 days work. I couldn't find it because you just save it somewhere, right? In an old computer or something. I probably still can find it if I really try. But I think before I never believed I could write a sci-fi. I told people that never a sci-fi ever. So now I learned that never say never because I think it's a possibility.
So here's the best part now is with
Yeah,
technology you can do voice to text. So
yeah,
that especially to keep up with your mind and save your hands and then just go back and edit. So that's a possibility.
yeah. It's easier now, much
Yes.
easier. Yeah,
Yeah, we don't want you to get hurt writing. That's not the purpose of it. So yes.
that's right. Yeah.
So Miss Tong, let us know what advice would you give an up and coming author, especially one whose English is not their first language when they're thinking about it. Should I really take this deep? What will you tell
Oh,
them?
well, I know lots of Chinese writers. They write in Chinese. They try to self-publish in North America. They have very limited market, as you understand. So learn English and really, really make an effort because first of all, you have to do things to do like you have to do two things. One is try to master the language. Second is you need to start taking writing courses. And I know lots of other countries they don't necessarily have creative writing programs. So for instance, in China, the first creative writing programs only started in 2010, right? That's pretty recent, and only in one university. So many people they write by intuition or by learning from other books or writers. They don't know the basics of fiction writing. That's really important. So if you don't write in English, how do you join a critique group? How do you find the freelance editors? How do they help you? How do you find the publisher? It's become really impossible actually. So just realize number one, you probably if you want to have a big market, you need to write in English. Second, it's doable. Don't believe you can do it. Like if you put your it took me 20 years to finish those three books. 20 years, that's a long, long, long time. But you have to, make that decision. And you have to have the passion because for the 20 years, you don't make money. You're writing it, right? Even now, I don't make much money. Like I feed myself by my daytime job. I don't feed myself by writing. Without passion, it's really hard to continue, right? You and then well, take courses is one thing because nowadays, all these writing courses are so much expensive than when I was taking it. Learn how to study other books, especially those classics, the good ones. Even if you can buy books on writing. You don't have to go to a class, right? So learn the craft and also be humble. I mean, anybody join the critique group know how does it work, but I also encounter some emerging writers. They have never been to a critique group, and their first draft, they show you when you try to give some constructive feedback, they just resist resist. They defend their writing right away. I mean, I have not heard any author, doesn't matter how genius and brilliant this author is, publish the first draft. I've never heard of that in my whole life. But for some reason, some emerging writers, right, especially if they're from a different country, they don't know the writing system or industry, they thought their first draft is good enough.
Oh,
That's stop you from grow, right? From growing. But having said that, be careful to share your work before you finish it because you could get so discouraged that you stop. And critique group is pretty safe, but outside the critique group, be careful with that because I learned this from Stephen King in his book on writing. He doesn't even share his unfinished draft to anyone. He will finish the first draft. They will put the draft in the drawer for a week. Then he would take it out and show his wife. Even him wouldn't do that. So be careful with that. Because emerging writers they tend to go to extremes, either overly confident or overly not
mhm.
confident. So like easily to get discouraged. Yeah, try to come to the middle.
That's such a good point. It is. It's such a valid point because sometimes we're overconfident or we're
Yeah,
under, and then trying to
yeah,
find that balance. But I love the fact that you said, guard your work. Make sure that the people reading it, should be readers of that genre, or else they're not going to get it. But be
yeah,
able to just protect them like a little baby. It's okay. Just don't
yeah,
protect them enough that when they tell you to fix it, you don't. So find a balance. It's all about the
yeah.
balance.
That's
So,
right.
madam, tell us, where can our viewers find you? What is your website? Where can our listeners find more about the book? Tell us.
I have a website. It's just tong-ge.com. So it's the author's name, tong-ge.com. And my book can be found on Amazon, Kobo, Indigo, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Apple Read, pretty much everywhere, and some libraries. Well, I mean, in Canada, lots of public libraries have my book, but in the States, I found very interesting. It seems like over, I don't know, 60 libraries. Most of them are university libraries.
That
So
sounds
I think maybe because it's a historical fiction, it has some historical value. So that's why,
good.
yeah,
It works. If they have it, even better. But it
yeah.
has been such a pleasure having you. But before you leave, are you ready for the lightning round?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Promise, super easy. Do not think too hard on these. So we're gonna go. So first
Okay.
one, candlelight dinners or breakfast in bed?
Candlelight dinners.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Superheroes or villains?
Superheroes.
Okay. Nonfiction or fiction?
Fiction.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Okay. Here's a little different. If you were stuck in a deserted island and could only have three things to bring with you, what would they be?
Water, sunscreen lotion, and a book.
That sounds like my vacation items. I love it. Miss Tong, truly a pleasure having you. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
Just one thing on Amazon, if you just type in the book title, you get a whole bunch of household items. So on Amazon, you really need to type in author's name as well. And appreciate a review if you like the book. That is so important for us, especially for small publisher published books. So it's really important. And thank you, DC. I'm really humbled to be here. And thank you for having me.
Truly, truly a pleasure. Congratulations on the book. So, to our viewers, go ahead and check out this book. If you enjoy historical fiction, if you just enjoy a really good book, this is the one you want to pick up. And to truly sign up for Mrs. Tong newsletter, give her some love, check out the book. So, and if you're new to the podcast, remember, go ahead and subscribe. You do not want to miss a single episode. This is our last episode for the evening, so we're very excited you guys have joined us. I'm actually going to be back next week with some amazing authors again, so just stay tuned. It should be fairly fun. But thank you for joining us and continue to support small authors. Thank you, everyone. Bye.